I'm going to say something the longevity industry never wants you to hear. Vitamins, supplements, and genetics don't stop aging after 60. Doctors know what does, but almost no one explains it clearly. After 80 years in medicine, here's the truth. Most people do not age because of disease. They age because they lose physical capacity, and nobody talks about that. Not your doctor rushing through a 10-minute appointment. Not the supplement industry selling hope in a bottle. Not even well-meaning friends who say, well, that's just getting older. That sentence has quietly ruined more lives than heart disease ever did. We've been sold a comforting lie. We're told longevity is about genetics, or antioxidants, or the right vitamin taken at the right time. We're told if we avoid cholesterol, avoid salt, avoid effort, we'll somehow glide into old age intact. But what I've seen, again and again, is that decline doesn't begin with a diagnosis. It begins with something far more subtle, a little less strength standing up from a chair, a little more hesitation on the stairs, a quiet decision to avoid what feels difficult. That's where aging really starts. Think of your body the way Peter Attia describes it, because it's the most honest analogy I know. Your body is a savings account. Muscle, endurance, balance, and strength are deposits. Every walk where you challenge yourself, every effort where your lungs work, every time your muscles are asked to do something meaningful, you're putting money in the account. But here's the part that should concern you. After 60, inactivity becomes a withdrawal, and it compounds. You don't feel it immediately, just like you don't feel a few dollars leaving your account. But one day, you check the balance, and it's not enough to live on. The real cost of that withdrawal is not weakness. It's not even pain. It's the slow erosion of independence. It's the moment you hesitate to travel because you're not sure you can handle the walking. It's asking for help with groceries you once carried easily. It's avoiding the floor because you're not confident you can get back up. I've watched proud men and women lose not just strength but dignity because no one ever explained what was actually happening to their bodies. Here's the part that should give you hope. Decline after 60 is not random, and it is not inevitable. It is driven by one primary system in the body, a system that, when neglected, accelerates aging and, when rebuilt, can slow it dramatically. And no, it doesn't require extreme workouts, expensive equipment, or punishing routines. It requires understanding what truly controls physical aging and training it the right way, safely, intelligently, and with purpose. Today, I want to walk you through that system. I want to show you why so many well-intentioned seniors are doing the wrong things, why comfort has quietly become the enemy, and how you can rebuild the physical foundation that keeps people independent well into their 70s, 80s, and beyond. This is not about living longer just to add years to the calendar. It's about preserving the capacity to live those years on your own terms. Before we go any further, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I read every single one, because what we're about to talk about may change how you see aging for the rest of your life. Most people enter their 60s believing they are doing just fine. They're still walking, still moving, still active. On the surface, everything appears intact. But beneath that surface, something critical is quietly slipping away, and it's almost never detected until it's already cost you something important. Walking, as comforting as it feels, preserves motion, but not power. And power is what protects you when life moves faster than expected. This misunderstanding is one of the earliest and most damaging shifts I've seen in aging bodies. After the age of 60, the body doesn't lose muscle evenly. It selectively sheds its most valuable fibers first. These are the type 2 fast-twitch fibers, the ones responsible for quick force, balance corrections, and sudden movements. They are the fibers that allow you to catch yourself when you trip, climb stairs without hesitation, or rise from the floor without fear. As these fibers shrink, a process known as sarcopenia accelerates, and the body becomes less efficient at managing blood sugar and energy. What looks like normal aging is often the result of this silent biological retreat. There's an analogy I've used for years because patients immediately understand it. Muscles are not like a car's engine. They're like the brakes. You can drive for a long time without realizing the brakes are failing. Everything feels fine until you need them instantly. That's how muscle power works. You don't notice its absence during a pleasant walk. You notice it in the split second when your body needs to respond quickly and can't. I remember a woman named Margaret, 72 years old, disciplined and consistent. She walked every morning without fail. She did everything she was told was good for aging. One afternoon she tripped on a low step. Nothing dramatic, no injury, but she couldn't get herself up from the floor, not because she was weak in the traditional sense, but because the explosive strength required to stand had quietly faded. That moment changed how she saw her body, and it changed how I explained aging to every patient after her. Rebuilding muscle power does not require aggression or risk, but it does require intent. One of the simplest ways this capacity is reawakened is through a movement as ordinary as standing up from a chair. The difference lies in how the movement is performed. Rising with speed, within safe limits, signals the nervous system to re-engage those fast twitch fibers. Sitting down slowly maintains control and protects the joints. Performed in short, structured sets with adequate rest, this movement restores a quality most people assume is gone forever. What matters here is not exhaustion and not strain, but intent. Power responds to clarity. When the body is reminded that speed still matters, it adapts. When it is never asked, it forgets. This is one of the earliest forks in the road of aging. One path leads toward fragility that feels sudden, but is anything but. The other rebuilds a reserve you didn't realize you were losing. And everything that follows depends on which path is taken early enough. For decades, strength has been treated as the ultimate safeguard against aging. Lift something heavy, repeat it slowly, and you're told you've done your duty to your future. On paper, this sounds reasonable. Strength looks impressive. It can be measured, charted, and celebrated. But aging bodies don't fail because they lack raw strength. They fail because strength that cannot be accessed quickly, efficiently, and repeatedly becomes ornamental. It exists, but it doesn't show up when life demands it. Inside the aging nervous system, timing begins to slip. Motor neurons fire more slowly, coordination dulls, and the communication between brain and muscle loses urgency. At the same time, mitochondria, the structures responsible for converting oxygen and nutrients into usable energy, produce less output unless challenged correctly. Muscles may grow slightly stronger under slow, controlled loads, but without speed and oxygen demand, they don't learn how to function under real conditions. The result is a body that looks capable but feels unreliable. A comparison I often return to is that of a backup generator. It may be powerful and well-maintained, but if it takes 10 minutes to turn on during a blackout, it fails its purpose. Strength without speed is exactly that. It exists in theory, but not in the moments that matter. This is why some people can perform well on gym machines, yet feel overwhelmed walking uphill, carrying groceries, or navigating uneven ground. Frank was 68 when he came to this realization. His leg strength, measured in a controlled environment, was well above average, yet everyday tasks drained him. He wasn't confused or unmotivated. His body simply hadn't been trained to express strength quickly or repeatedly. The system that converts force into function had been neglected, not because of laziness but because of incomplete advice. When strength is paired with controlled speed, something important changes. Lifting a manageable load with intention, moving it decisively and lowering it with control, sends a different message to the body. It asks the nervous system to engage. It challenges energy production. It restores the link between effort and usefulness. Stopping short of exhaustion preserves quality, and spacing sessions allows adaptation rather than breakdown. What's often missed in conversations about aging is that the body is not seeking to be strong in isolation. It's seeking to be responsive. It wants to know that when a demand appears, sudden, imperfect, unpredictable, it can answer. Strength alone is a component. Function is the goal. And without addressing how strength is expressed, many well-intentioned efforts quietly fall short, leaving people wondering why they still feel tired, unstable, or hesitant, despite doing everything right. If this is helping you see aging differently, subscribe now. I share what decades of clinical experience reveal about staying capable, independent, and strong long after most people are told to slow down. There is a quiet system in the body that determines how everything feels as the years pass, yet it's rarely discussed with the seriousness it deserves. Most people associate it with heart checkups or treadmills they learn to avoid. But this system is not just about the heart. It's about energy itself. It's about whether the body feels capable or constantly on the edge of exhaustion. And after 60, it begins to shrink unless it's reminded of its purpose. As the decades pass, the body's ability to use oxygen efficiently declines. This capacity, often referred to as VO2 max, drops by roughly 10% per decade when it's left unchallenged. That number sounds abstract until you see what it means in real life. Oxygen is the currency of movement. It fuels muscles, sharpens the brain, and determines how long effort can be sustained before fatigue takes over. When delivery slows, everything feels heavier. Thoughts become foggier. Recovery takes longer. Frailty doesn't arrive all at once. It seeps in through this narrowing channel. A helpful way to picture this is to imagine muscles as construction sites and oxygen as the supply trucks. You can have strong workers and solid tools, but if the trucks arrive late or not at all, progress stops. Strong muscles without an aerobic system to support them are stranded assets. They exist, but they can't be fully used. This is why some people feel surprisingly winded despite maintaining strength. The limiting factor is not effort or willpower, it's delivery. Linda was 75 when this became clear. Her strength was respectable for her age, and her medical tests were unremarkable. Yet she avoided stairs and long walks not out of fear, but because she felt breathless and drained. Her body had quietly adapted to lower demand by becoming efficient at doing less. Over time, that efficiency turned into limitation. The more she avoided exertion, the narrower her aerobic capacity became, reinforcing a cycle that felt unavoidable but wasn't. When the aerobic system is engaged at a sustainable intensity, something different happens. Oxygen delivery improves, mitochondria become more numerous and more efficient, energy becomes steadier rather than spiky. Movements that once felt taxing begin to feel manageable again. The body learns that endurance is still required, and it responds accordingly. Importantly, this type of engagement leaves people feeling restored rather than depleted, which is why it has such a profound effect on confidence and consistency. What's often misunderstood is that aging does not reduce energy first, it reduces capacity. Energy fades as a consequence. By the time someone says, "I just don't have the stamina anymore," the system responsible has already been underused for years. When this system is brought back into the picture, many of the limitations people accept as permanent begin to soften, not because time reversed, but because the body remembered what it was built to do. There is a moment in later life when comfort begins to feel like wisdom. Movements are softened, effort is minimized, the body is protected from strain, challenge, and anything that might feel uncomfortable. On the surface, this seems sensible, even responsible. But over time, comfort becomes a quiet signal to the body that less is required of it. And the body, always efficient, responds by doing less. Biologically, the human body adapts downward far more easily than it adapts upward. When exertion is avoided, the signals that stimulate mitochondrial growth begin to fade. The production of new, healthy mitochondria slows. A key regulator of endurance and metabolic health, known as PGC1A, becomes suppressed. This isn't a failure or a flaw. It's the body following instructions. Reduced demand leads to reduced capacity, and reduced capacity makes even small efforts feel overwhelming. An image I often use is that of a thermostat. The body is constantly adjusting its internal settings based on what it senses. When challenge disappears, the thermostat turns everything down. Energy production, resilience, recovery, and endurance are all recalibrated to a lower setting. The danger is that this change feels gradual and reasonable. There's no single moment where decline announces itself. It simply becomes the new normal. George was 81 when fatigue became the dominant feature of his days. He had spent years carefully avoiding exertion, believing this was the safest approach. Over time, walking became tiring. Standing too long felt risky. The very fatigue he was trying to avoid became the greatest threat to his stability. His body had not been damaged by effort. It had been diminished by the absence of it. When short, controlled surges of effort are introduced into an otherwise manageable routine, the body receives a different message. It's brief, it's contained, but it's unmistakable. Oxygen demand rises, mitochondrial signaling is activated, and the system responsible for endurance is reminded that it's still needed. The recovery that follows becomes part of the adaptation, reinforcing confidence rather than fear. Within minutes, equilibrium returns, and with it, a subtle sense of capability. Aging accelerates not when the body is challenged, but when it is never asked to respond. Comfort, when unbroken, trains fragility. The irony is that avoiding discomfort does not preserve safety. It erodes it. Over time, the absence of challenge creates a body that feels vulnerable, even during ordinary tasks. Reintroducing controlled intensity doesn't make life harder. It restores a margin of safety that comfort quietly takes away. After many decades of watching people grow older, one truth stands out with uncomfortable clarity. Long life is not preserved by avoiding effort. It is preserved by remaining useful to life itself. Shigeaki Hinohara understood this deeply. He spoke often about the danger of becoming overly careful, of shrinking one's world in the name of safety. In his view, the body was meant to stay engaged, challenged, and needed. When that stops, decline accelerates quietly but relentlessly. What we call aging is often not time acting on the body, but the body responding to lowered expectations. Muscles that are no longer asked to produce power gradually disappear. Lungs that are never challenged to deliver oxygen reduce their capacity. The nervous system, sensing fewer demands, slows its responses. None of this happens because the body is failing. It happens because it is adapting. The body is efficient, and it will not maintain systems it believes are no longer required. This is why independence is lost long before disease appears. The loss begins with hesitation, with fatigue that seems out of proportion, with movements that feel heavier than they should. Over time, those small limitations shape daily decisions, and daily decisions shape the body. What remains is not fragility caused by age, but fragility trained by inactivity. The most reliable protection against this pattern is not found in pills or avoidance. It comes from preserving two capacities that govern nearly everything else: the ability to produce force quickly and the ability to sustain effort without exhaustion. Muscle power allows you to respond to the unexpected. Aerobic capacity allows you to keep going without fear. Together, they form the foundation of independence. I've seen people in their 70s and 80s reclaim confidence simply by restoring these systems. They move with less caution, think more clearly, and recover faster. The body responds remarkably well when it is reminded that it is still needed. Aging does not mean surrender. It means choosing a strategy that keeps life within reach.